Good evening, friends. So, this is the first edition of my chat show called Inside Out. And my guest for the day is Mr. Krishna Kumar, the CEO of Green Pepper. KK, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vipin. Delighted to be here on the first episode.
Thank you. Okay, so that throws up a very interesting question. Why do you think you are my first guest? Why do you think I made you my first guest? Any guess?
I think you wanted a candid chat. Maybe we know a little bit each other, and that can help the first conversation. And then this could be something like a learning experiment, isn't it?
Definitely, those are the points. But additionally, there is one more strong reason, KK. I should tell you that.
Yeah.
When I look at people around, KK is one of the most visible persons around in Cochin. I'm not saying you are the most popular person, but definitely you are one of the most visible persons in Cochin. You are an author. You are a speaker. I have seen you speaking in various forums. I know you as a digital marketer. I know you as an HR expert. Correct me, if I am wrong in any of these.
Yeah, these are things I do.
And you are also an actor. You have acted in a couple of ads.
Really? Yeah, live probably. Yeah.
So the multifaceted guy called Krishna Kumar, who's also known to me. That factor gave me a little bit of curiosity. Why can't I first talk to KK and start my episode?
Wonderful. I mean, I'm so happy to be here. Vipin.
Thank you.
You chose me for the first episode, and I hope this could be 100th episode. I really wish to watch the 100th episode of this show.
And if you're doing a 100th episode, you'll come back again.
Yeah, of course. Maybe as a different guy.
I wish I could give you a coffee. I'm actually having a coffee, but unfortunately, the corona has kind of made us do this episode in two different locations. But I'm sure maybe you can ask your wife to get a coffee for you. I'm having a coffee here.
I'm having a bottle of warm water, maybe for the evening.
Okay, great. Okay. So let me start with a couple of very curious things which I have in my mind. When you look at this particular season, everybody is coming up with new passions, new interests. People are trying out new things. When you scroll through the social media, you can see that people are expressing a lot. Maybe because they have a little bit more time, or they have a little flexible timing. I may call it so. That can be the reason. Every other guy is a singer or a dancer or a TikToker, if there is a word like that. So all these things are happening, and of course, I'm also trying a little bit of my singing stunts. But I thought it is also important to do something which is a little more meaningful. To have some meaningful conversations, to talk to people in such a way that it will help us to understand each other. And also, this being a kind of a public program, some of the thoughts which you have can be shared with our viewers. So those are the things which is first going through my mind. Okay.
So I think it's been almost 55 days now since we have been locked down. We can't move out, and of course there are some relaxations right now. But I think what has happened in these 55 days, or even more, I mean, maybe coming weeks will be deciding the whole thing, how people will evolve to be better humans, or even bad humans. We don't know. But the idea is, I think people got some time to reflect, and they understood that so far we all took the time for granted. The time for granted, and we were doing things which meant to construct our careers or lives, or things which we thought are very important. But when this kind of a pandemic hits the world, I mean, it's not hitting just a state in India, right? It's not like a cyclone or a natural disaster hitting a particular region. It's hitting the world, and every aspect of our life is being touched. Like, for example, if it is work, education, careers, future prospects, supply chain, everything is affected. And people realize that when a huge thing like a pandemic strikes us, the biggest thing which goes into you is like the fear, and the fear of losing time, right? So there is a bit of sense of urgency for people to kind of explore their childhood dreams before things go really wrong. I mean, this is something like an evolutionary thing. I mean, every psychologists talk about this evolution or evolutionary thing in our mind, right? Imagine, there is a question which people ask, like, we imagine this is your last day in life. What would you like to do? And similar people are acting like that. And probably this is not their last day in their lives. They have years to come. But there is a sense of urgency which made people feel to do the most important things which they missed out to do in their daily life. It is good. It's good because they can see themselves, they can discover themselves. I see many people coming out with some very interesting stuff. Like, it's not just about singing, it's about self-discovering and doing the thing which you really enjoy. I think it's beautiful.
Completely agree with you. This is, we will definitely take this as one of the topics while we go into the further part of the discussion, the positive side of the lockdown or a pandemic like this. But let me start with another question, KK. So I have already told you the reason why I have chosen you as my first interview. So what is KK? KK is a lot of things, as I have just told. What exactly is the real KK, and what is that you would want to achieve? How would you want to position yourself, or how would you want the world to perceive you? I'm not asking a philosophical question. It's a straightforward question. But yeah.
But you were expecting a philosophical answer, I believe, from me.
That's why I want you.
I know you did an amazing thing by telling me that this is cannot be answered philosophically. I mean, because you were expecting that. Yeah. But having said that, of course, each phases of life is about reinventing ourselves. I mean, this is not philosophical, but let me tell you. And over a period of time, I've been trying to see what is really important for me. And when we started the business, when we started the early stages of our career, acquiring things and doing, novel things. Like when I say young days are all about doing innovative things, right? And even now we can do innovative things, but innovation has been like the most heart of what we do, right? And then we discover, and we need money to survive and thrive, and we need teams. So the interest goes from innovation and moving to building a team, motivating them, making their lives better, making them learn better during interactions with us. So I think as an individual, like my company's motto says, do what you enjoy and enjoy what you do. I've imbibed that philosophy into me. I mean, to feel good about what I'm doing, not comparing myself with anybody else. I mean, that's true liberation, I would say. In fact, for 4 or 5 years back, till 4 or 5 years back, I used to always compare myself with others. How they are doing. But I think that I've come across that kind of difficult struggles in life when it comes to comparing ourselves with others, especially when I went for that expedition where I was getting a very different the travel enlightenment, and that really helped me to reprioritize, to reinvent. But I don't know whether it really helped me in terms of becoming more ambitious, becoming more driven. Because entrepreneurship is all about being driven, being ambitious, sometimes being very aggressive to do things, right? So these are things which I fairly miss sometimes in my life, but at the same time, we do driven projects. We do projects which require a lot of energy, a lot of innovation. So to answer your question, I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur. I mean, it's always 12 years of journey. It's a small firm even now, but we do some very interesting work, even if it is technology hiring, or the digital marketing, or some interesting work on the videos, all certain very specialized engagements which the clients want us to do, and every project is like learning for me, learning for the team, and we enjoy that. I mean, it's like we are not going through the drag of repetition. We are going through the cycle of novelty, experimentation, and doing new things, and that keeps us alive. So I mean, so that's the essence of I think what I do. The domain can be changing, the projects can be changing, the geographies of the clients can be changing, but the essence is this. Yeah, that's
so
what
I understood the essence of what.
Sorry for being philosophical.
It was not, answer was not very philosophical as I expected, but one important thing which I noticed is it's more about chasing your passion. When I look at the kind of projects which you have chased or the things which you did, it's you're doing multiple things. So these are all the passion. You're kind of chasing your passion. But is that the right business strategy? Maybe down the line, 20 years or 10 years, if you look back, will that help you to kind of carve a space for you in terms of as an entrepreneur, as a business entity?
Yeah. So I would say this is not a great business strategy. For example, being a consultant myself, I would never advise probably this strategy to anyone who is wanting to do something very specific. Like, for example, we always tell our own, entrepreneur friends and clients, for that matter, that we need to have real focus on what we're doing, and we can't be doing everything. We can't be expert at everything. We have to be, looking at one area, go deep into it, focus on it, and then find the sweet spot which can be scalable. This is something which we tell them, right? But that's a business strategy. Now, when it comes to life strategy, I think life is different. So business is important for creating wealth, creating a team of people who can grow with you. I mean, that's beautiful. That's life in itself. But when it comes to individual life strategy, I mean, people choose different paths, right? For example, I've seen people becoming poets, people becoming musicians, people becoming whatever they wanted to become. Like what you call the childhood dream in whatever they wanted to be. So I think these are all good. We cannot say good or bad. It's only like what we say. We can only connect the dots later, right? Like you rightly said, only after 10 years we would really know whether the strategy is good or whether it really work for you. Like in hindsight, we can evaluate our life. But now, I mean, we are on the run, right?
Okay, I would say that in that sense, you are more following your heart. You have certain things which you want to explore, experiment. In the process, you are experimenting your life as such. So the focus is more life than a profession or a business ambition. You are life focused than career focused.
Yeah.
Is it a right?
Many of yeah, you can say like that, but I think life has got the business in it, the life has the career in it, right? And I mean, if you look at it in total view, it should be beautiful. It should be, it should be, like you said, doing things which really excite your soul, right? And at the same time, you should be able to survive. You should be able to thrive. These are good things, right? And then take care of your family. Take care of your immediate people. I mean, these are beautiful things. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of young people like behaving like this in 20s. They have a very different worldview. They have a very different way of looking at life. We used to talk about something like midlife crisis, right? Usually, midlife crisis comes, say, at the age of 45, when you have reached a level where you have your kids are like growing up, and you are at a mid-level executive of a big company, or even a senior executive, and then you realize that there are so many things that your heart is craving to do, and there is a 2-year period. I mean, this is scientifically proven, like where the midlife crisis stays for 2 years, and you are really going through a struggle, a confused struggle inside you. And you do things, you sometimes lose your interest. You might be at your best time in your job, but still you feel there is something missing in there, and so people go through that at the age of 45. That was 10 years back, and now you see people at 25 going through that midlife crisis. Because what happens is, I always used to tell that starting from 15, like kids now 15, they go through an intense life struggle. And when I say life struggle, it's not the resource struggle. They have all the resources with them, but they go through this emotional struggle of what they are, the sense of identity struggle, and they want to figure out what they have in them, constantly comparing with their peers. I mean, they want to do something, but that's not really making them happy. Going through different stream of relationships, sometimes which may not work, and each relationship will look like a big life in itself. And then they come out of it at the age of 25. They feel like they've gone through many things. Mm-hmm. Like earlier, people used to do that when they used to reach 45 because the life was more linear. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, life is like the COVID-19. We have not seen this in our life, and now kids are seeing this pandemic disrupting everything. So I think they have far more resilience. They've seen life more than probably somebody in their 40s would have seen or would have absorbed.
I agree. So yeah, that's an interesting approach. I think worth a thought for a lot of people. Even at our life stage. Okay, so let me just quickly check with something which I found very fascinating. What you did actually, you did about 30 webinars in the last 30 days or 60 days.
30 webinars in 55 days. I mean, since the lockdown started, actually.
Okay.
That was not a very conscious decision. It moved from one to other, and it just happened. So it was not like calculated attempt to do some number of webinars. But I would tell you the thread actually, because when the lockdown was about to start, I was just collecting my thoughts on how this would turn out to be like for many people, right? And my first set of observations, I could just note it down on my mobile app, and I use an app called Writer Plus. I was just writing it down, and I felt that many people are now going to work from home for the first time.
Okay.
And like people like you, technology professionals are always used to working from home, maybe at least on weekends or on normal days. But you see 90% of the people have not worked from home in their lives. And that's going to happen. I mean, and that happened. 4 billion people are locked down, and millions of people started working from home for the first time. So I was writing about the remote working in a very brief blog, and I was trying to share my experiences because, as you know, that I've been working remotely on and off like almost 1.5 years because, our teams are, in different places distributed. So in Bangalore, in Cochin, I used to work in cafeterias. Whenever I wanted to be more productive, I go outside and work. I mean, these all things were happening, and working with different teams, who are doing different projects. So these are all normal things for us, for a tech company, for a digital marketing company, but not a normal thing for 90% of the people. So having this in mind, I started writing down how can you make the working from home experience a delightful and a productive experience. I mean, just some fair thoughts, just
so most of your webinars were on this topic, work from home topic, or
so since I wrote that blog and it got some really good views in LinkedIn, and it got picked up by some of the foreign public blogs, they picked it, and it got some reach, and people started noticing that idea. And they approached me and said, can you do this as a webinar? So I was not prepared for doing it as a webinar because, of course, I do a lot of programs, but webinar was something new, not done before. I agreed to that, and then it started. So it started, and then people saw that, and people who saw that referred, and and then it went on, and now this really happened. 30 webinars in 55 days. But it's not just the webinars, it's like Facebook Live, then the radio shows, different requests coming from different places. But only because I was at home, I could talk to them understand what they want. If it is at office, we would have missed many of these things, right? So like working for 12 hours because you have to, take care of your work, normal work, as well as try to find time and fixed slots for webinars and prepare. And, and doing a webinar for 1.5 hours is like absolutely exhausting thing, because after that, for 1 hour, you are like, you have to sit somewhere and then do it. I mean, so it's like a lot of energy. I mean, physical energy, I would say, I mean, more than the
Okay.
the idea part of it. Because people, because we know, because the biggest, I mean, I was very conscious for the fact that when some 150 people are there, I mean, I know that not all of them are, staring at the screen, but at the same time, people are investing their time, and they should get some value out of it, right?
I have a couple of things to know on that, KK. So these webinars are normally conducted by what kind of organizations? Who are conducting these webinars?
So these are conducted by, usually these are conducted by startup communities who want to engage their people, employers who would like to, talk to their team about, the impending crisis and, give them motivation. So the tone of these webinars was set by the organizers. They said, hey, we have to imbibe some kind of positivity, because this is time, because when the lockdown started, it was intense negativity, right? People were really confused, and they were thinking how things would turn out to be. So they said, hey, let's make it a positive thing. This is to engage people, to bring them together, share ideas, tell them that there is world after COVID-19, all those things. And then at the same time, how to prepare yourself. So most of the people were like using lockdown as an excuse, right? Okay, lockdown, now nothing to happen, let's stay at home. So bringing those people to do something productive, bringing those people to listen to us, saying that this is a great opportunity. You won't get this kind of a time, because when was the last time you took a 2-month home? I mean, I wouldn't call it vacation, but an opportunity to sit at home for 2 months, and then you still have like 4 hours, 5 hours in a day to spend on creative stuff, like whatever you love to do, reading or writing or singing, or I mean, many people started doing skilling programs, online courses. So we see one of the biggest experiments happening across the world. Like, and in social media, you see what all things people were doing. They were refreshing their old skills, coming out with new ideas. So I think that has been the core thing for most of the webinars. How to
so what I understand is most of these webinars are conducted by organizations to give a positivity to their employees, and to give that show that ray of hope that this is not the end of the world, and for that reasons.
I was surprised to get some of the responses, because I thought, like, why should in fact, I have only attended one webinar of somebody else's, but I liked that webinar. It was a TEDx webinar, but the point was, like, why should someone be in a webinar, and listen to me? That was my first thought. Why should they be coming? But then I realized that the responses came in because there was so much of intense, like I said, the anxiety in people, which led people to listen to someone and also engage, because there is no other opportunity to ask questions or engage with people. So they love to be heard, in a webinar program by others, because there are other people who are watching them asking questions and getting answers. So these were probably some of their best moments in their day, sometimes, because they felt like being part of something, a sense of belongingness to the game.
So one comparison I want to make is between a webinar which is done for your group and a public webinar. For why I'm asking this is, let's say if companies on a commercial basis would want to do a webinar on a topic of in their domain, did you do any of these sessions which was done for a public group rather than for an employee group of that particular organization? Did you do any public program? I just want to know how was that. Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm trying to understand with this question. How easy is it to ensure the right participation for a webinar? That's one thing I want to know from you. Second point is that what are the various promotional strategies used by these organizers who conduct these various webinars? Three, let's say if I have an interest in a particular topic, me as somebody who's going to consume information in a particular topic, is there any place where I can go and explore the available webinars in during that particular time frame? So these are the things which I would like to know from you, Keki.
Yeah. So to the first question, I mean, I would say there were mixed groups. Like, for example, some companies have their own groups. So just to give an example, there was one company who wanted me to address their internal HR team. And what happened was, like, the link was sent to the CEO just for the information. And what he did was he shared that link, the Zoom link, to his executive group. So what happened was, like, we were expecting 28 HR professionals there, and then finally when I opened it, there were more than 80 people in the webinar. And I was asking the organizers, I mean, are you sure these people are yours? I mean, they said, oh my God, my CEO and all of them are there. I don't know how this happened. So from that too, you have groups wherein they share the links to different WhatsApp groups. They have no control of who will come, or probably the organizers may not even know until they log in on that time and see the number of participants. So sometimes it's crazy, sometimes it's very random, but sometimes it's very structured. I've seen people. I've attended. I mean, in fact, done some webinars for people who have sent me a list of participants even before the webinar. So it's like depends on how organizers look at things, right? That is number one. Number two, on your question, where you wanted to know, like, where are these available, right? So if you look at every organization, even universities for that matter, I've seen. I was having a different impression about the academic, people so far, the universities, but I think they have done a great job of organizing people from different segments, be it companies, technology. They brought these people together, created a very lively, interaction, brought these people in various platforms. So they use different tools. So I've used Cisco WebEx to Zoom to Facebook Live to Google Meets to, StreamYard, to different things for doing this. So for someone to know more about, upcoming webinars, I think the best way is to go for, there are two ways of looking at this. One is webinars which are local contextual webinars, like, someone whom doing it, because it makes more sense for you to listen to them. The other kind of webinars are like the TV shows kind of webinars, where you have the celebrities and big guys coming and talking, or like platforms like TED. So it depends on what you really want to do. Sometimes, I happen to listen to some portions of the webinars which are done by, people from the NASCOM to the Kerala Startup Mission. And sometimes it surprises us with some great ideas. Sometimes it doesn't happen. So, it depends on how you look at it. There are people who absorb, ideas from, webinars, note it down. They share. Sometimes they share an email after the, the whole webinar, saying that, hey, I like this portion of it. I like this, or they send us a full synopsis. So people sometimes take it very seriously. Sometimes we know that they are multitasking, like, how we do webinars. We attend the webinar, we might be doing something else. You have the freedom to do anything when you attend.
Yeah, so
they can just listen to it also. You don't have to stare at the screen. They can just listen to it and maybe watch later. So many people would say, hey, I couldn't join the webinar, but is there a link available? So people can watch it later also.
So we are talking about an audience which is kind of pushed or forced to a webinar by their respective organization. In some cases, and in such cases, I feel that like you rightly said, their involvement levels might not be really up there. I am asking this particular question to benefit the organizations who might want to do a webinar for a general public, possibly to sell some of their concepts, which is in their domain. So for such kind of people, when they plan a topic and when they plan a webinar for that, how do they actually go out and ensure that that message reaches out the right people and they get proper registrations for that webinar? What are the possible 1, 2, 3, 4 digital marketing tools which you think will really help me to promote a webinar to ensure that there is the right kind of participation for a public program?
Yeah. So there are tools like Webinar Jam, which is used by some really big webinar speakers. In fact, their business model itself is webinar. They conduct webinars on a regular basis. They have, in fact, I've been part of a couple of webinars where they have used Webinar Jam as a tool to do the entire end-to-end marketing. Say, for example, you get a link on Facebook, you click on it, you put your email ID there. Once you put your email ID there, they take you to the different processes like getting an email. So there are some 8 to 10 emails coming in between we attend the webinar. So it's like constant reminders. So there is a system which is developed. There are not just the Webinar Jam, there are similar companies to Webinar Jam which actually allows you to sell a webinar. Many enterprises now are trying to use webinar as a tool to quickly reach out and tell their idea. So webinar is not a sales program. It's like a educative, informative, sharing thing with possibly no agenda, but ultimately people take your ideas. People trust you because they see you for almost 1 hour, so they have to they build a bit of relationship with you and trust you for whatever you say, because you're not selling it, you're giving it away, right? So enterprises are using this as a good strategy to push their ideas to their audience. And so one of the things which I've noticed with some of the successful organizers which I've worked with is they come up with, the first question they ask is like, what are you going to talk about? And then I would give them a broad idea, and then they work on the headline for at least 4 or 5 times to see that whether the headline really captures the attention. They even send that headline to some of their groups to see whether it creates some impact, and they will come back to me and say, hey, can we restructure? So the attention to the detail on starting from the headline to the poster, to the timing, to the way the confirmations go to the participants, to the follow-up, because you need to even follow up, maybe say like 1 hour before the webinar to say, hey, the webinar is on and everything is fine. So there is a build-up required for selling an online program. So unlike of course, all the events require that.
Yeah. KK, I think in a time like this, when more and more companies want to come to these kind of platforms, and at a time when a lot of these businesses actually don't know how to go about it, possibly consultants like you have a big role to play. Kind of, you can reach out to companies and tell them that we help conduct these programs in the most professional way. So that's a different stream of vertical and different line of opportunity, which I think, because I think it's very critical, because putting a lot of effort in doing a program like this, and end of the day, if they don't get the desired results out of it, it's a lot of time, energy, and resource wasted on it. So I think consultants like you have a role in possibly in educating your clients that it is very important to do it right, and possibly you can help them in getting these things done. Yeah, so I think that's an opportunity. Okay, let's go to a different.
Yeah.
So
and one of the things which I always do on the webinars is I never do a presentation. Like I don't open a PDF or a PPT. I don't do that. I asked organizers whether it is fine. They said this is really good, because people don't want to see a sheet of paper, right? People want to see someone out there, who is passionate, who is energetic. So they like to see people, in action, right? I have no problem in people doing PDF presentations. This is absolutely fine, because some people have a very structured way of building the arguments and conversations and things like that. I mean, it's pretty good. But as far as for me, I mean, I just have a list of ideas which I want to share with them, and then I open up. Questions come. So people love the spontaneity. People love that thing that we don't have anything fixed to say, and there is a what do you call the fluidity. That's what the response has always been. So I want to continue with that since people like it.
Right. So I fully agree with you. So that is possibly a more interesting format which people will appreciate. Okay, so moving to the next topic, because we don't have a lot of time for one episode. I am kind of a little short on time.
How's it going? Are you okay? Are you happy with your first episode?
Yeah, so I mean, I am really happy that some of your thoughts are really, fresh, which will be useful also to the viewers. So it's very different from having a private conversation. A private conversation can go to any level. So but at a time in a restricted episode like this, I want to extract the best out of KK and take his points of view on a lot of topics. So yeah, so that's a small limitation I have. So the last topic which I want to know from you today. So we all know that this pandemic has created a lot of mess. Be it the economy. Possibly that's the biggest thing which is being discussed now, and the health issue itself. So at a glance, when we look around, we have some 10 major negative impacts because of this pandemic. But I'm sure that any crisis like this will also throw up some kind of opportunities, some kind of learnings. Most important, the way we see life changes with catastrophes like these. So what do you think are the positives which actually let us keep the opportunities aside, let's keep the business opportunities aside, because that's a very large topic we can possibly discuss for about an hour or so, but so let's keep it aside. But what are the positives out of it? Let me just give you one example so that you can kind of elaborate on that. I feel people and businesses are getting smarter. They are thinking about being more efficient in a situation like this, because there are huge limitations like the market has shrunk. Most of their companies are not spending, so which means businesses should get smarter than what they are at the moment. So that is a positive change. And we also realize that we discussed in length about working from home. So working from home has its positives also, apart from some of the change. Apart from the change itself, there are positives. There is flexibility. There is time saved. In today's situation, a lot of time is spent on transportation, on commutation. If you look at metro cities, I know that about 3 hours on an average people spend on road in a city like Mumbai to go to office and come back. So these are all huge savings. And when you look at the energy, the petrol being conserved, that is also a huge saving for individuals as well as for the nation. The country as such is saving on fuel. So there are a lot of positives. So these are just some of the thoughts which is coming to me while I am talking this to you. What are your thoughts on this? What are the positives which kind of emerged out of this crisis?
Okay, a big question actually, but I think I've been reading a lot about what's happening, and also watching so many interviews. So many interviews. I would say in the last 55 days, I would have seen interviews on a daily basis, if not possibly fully, but I want to watch the major portions of an interview to see what the world's best thinkers are doing at this moment. What are they thinking about it, including starting from the Bill Gates to Anthony Fauci to all these people who at least know what's happening, right? So what I understand from them is, and of course from the politicians, how they deal with it, how the governments are treating this, how the big corporations are dealing with this, how the leaders are dealing with it, how people like us, are dealing with this. But I mean, I get reminded of a story. I mean, whenever this pandemic thing comes up, I mean, the discussion comes up, I tell this thing. So there is something called Japanese fishing story. I don't know whether people have heard about this, but this is like this. You know, um, so this is exactly the same. I mean, thing which reminds me whenever I talk about this. Pandemic. So Japanese fishing stories like this, where large boats go to the ship. I mean, go to the deep sea to get the fish in Japan, and it takes almost a week or sometimes 10 days to come back. So by the time they reach back, it's almost 7 days since they actually caught the fish, and they have to keep it in the large ice cube containers, which is huge, very big size. And the Japanese don't like the taste of it. They feel the fish is not fresh, and it's already 7 days old, and is kept in the ice cube. And this is not the fish we want, right? This is inefficient, lethargic fish, right? And they were trying to find out some solutions for it. And the Japanese thought something like, they carried a huge ship deep into the sea, and whenever they put the fish into the water, they also kept the shark into it. So large container with a small shark, and the rest of the fishes were like, for next 7 days, were like very, very active, even 10x more active than they used to be. So a single shark could actually make thousands of fishes in that tanker very, very active, be very agile, and the idea was to keep it fresh whenever it is brought back to the shore, and people had a nice time. So I think the corona is the large shark in this tanker, and we are all like, oh my God, what is going to happen? What is going to happen? And the education is changing, remote working is happening, companies are leaving offices. People are taking so many decisions in this short span of time about their life, about their business, about whatever they wanted to do. They could have done it all this while. I mean, they waited for it because they wanted, because the fear is the biggest motivation for any human. It's not the willpower, it's not the happiness. So people say, be happy, you'll be productive. No, I think you should be fearful, moderately fearful. Not extreme fear can actually freeze you, but moderate fear can actually drive you forward. I think that moderate fear is there now.
So people actually deliver the best in a situation like this. When there is a little bit of uncertainty, people are more conscious about it. Decisions are more wiser, which is most important. When I look at decisions at households, at corporates, people realize that there is no much scope to go wrong on their decisions. So so that is definitely one of the positives.
People want to preserve cash now. People want to preserve cash because whenever I talk to an entrepreneur, the first thing they talk about is keeping liquidity. Liquidity is becoming more important than an asset. Right? Asset is sometimes useful if you don't have liquidity, because you can't sell it. That asset is absolutely not useful. But if you have cash in the bank, you're the most powerful guy. I mean, cash is king now. So cash is king. So it was always like cash is king, but we thought cash is not king, asset is the king for some time. And then now back to the basics, right? So people are coming back to the basics when it comes to the finance, when it comes to the economics, when it comes to the environment. Now people have started thinking more about environment. They started planting trees, coming up with kitchen gardens, so many things. Of course, they got more time, but thinking also improved.
And also health. The people, how they see their health and the basic cleanliness, which was always important. We know that people are much more conscious about it. Be it, I know that even my 15-year-old son, immediately he steps into the house, first thing he does is, I need to take a bath. That was never the case. So I can see changes even in children, in a time like this.
So in a way that these are habits. I mean, I always talk about habits which we developed during this lockdown. So if you ask me, whenever I ask friends, what are the couple of habits, good habits which have developed during this lockdown? What are the two bad habits you developed during the lockdown? So this will decide us. So I've been thinking now. If you ask me, there are a couple of really good things which happened. The good habits which I started developing, bad habits which I could shed because there was no opportunity to do that. So I had to leave that. So these habits are going to stay longer, right? For example, today we started talking, doing an interview like this. Now I think this habit of you doing an interview will stay longer. You will do probably more and more and more, and which could not have happened if this didn't happen. So new habits. If you start an online course, I think you will do more and more because you get the taste of it, right? And if you started becoming more productive at home, then you don't want to really go back to the old routine and then do it. So you would retain a lot of good things from this, and you also got an opportunity to shed a lot of bad things.
Exactly.
In that way, I think habits make a big thing, make a big difference. The way you treat money, yeah.
Great. So I think we are done as per the time scheduled for this discussion. But I'm happy that even though this was a very casual kind of a discussion, we could exchange some of the thoughts, which will not only help me to understand you better, but some of the thoughts which you just shared can be useful to our viewers as well. So KK, I wish you all the very best, and I'm sure that you will take care of yourself and you will stay safe, and let us all play our part in fighting this pandemic, and let us come out of this strong than ever before. And I wish you all the best, and thanks for coming, KK.
Great, and congratulations to you, Vipin, for starting this, because starting is the biggest thing. I mean, when you start this, every episode becomes better and better, and I hope to see you again on this show. Thank you.
Thank you, KK.
Bye.
Bye bye. Good night.
Bye.